You know, we tend to think of landscapes as just, well, scenery, right? A pretty neutral backdrop to our lives. But what if I told you they're actually more like scripts? Yeah, powerful, invisible scripts that are constantly telling us who we are, where we fit in, and maybe, most importantly, who belongs. Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever been somewhere and just felt kind of out of place? I don't mean because of the people around you, but the place itself. That little feeling of unease in your gut, that sense that you just don't quite fit in with the scenery. Well, that feeling, it's totally real. And it's exactly what we're digging into today.
All right, so let's get into it. This is all about a question of belonging. We're going to explore how the very ground we walk on actually shapes who we are. And trust me, it's not a one-way street where we just, live on the land. It's more like a dance, a deep, complex dance where the landscape is an active partner in forging our identity.
So there's this kind of academic term for it, mutually constitutive. Sounds complicated, right? But it's actually super simple. All it means is that we shape our landscapes. We build cities, we plant gardens, we pave roads. And at the exact same time, those landscapes are shaping us. They're teaching us what's normal, what's expected, who we're supposed to be. It's this constant, powerful feedback loop. Okay, so now we're diving into the myth of the landscape. And to really get this, we've got to put on our detective hats. We're about to uncover the hidden stories, the myths that are literally baked into our surroundings. Because every single landscape, whether it's a rolling green hill or a concrete city block, is telling a story. The real question is, whose story? Well, let's start with a really powerful one, the English pastoral myth. This is this deep, deep idea that the real England, the true England, is the green, peaceful countryside. You can picture it, right? It's seen as this place of tradition, of stability, and, implicitly, a white space. And in this story, the bustling industrial cities, well, they're seen as the places of change, of immigration. The countryside, on the other hand, is guarded as the nation's pure, unchanging heart. But what happens when someone challenges that myth? This is where the work of photographer Ingrid Pollard comes in, and it is just perfect. As a Black British woman, she visited the iconic English Lake District, a place she thought she'd love, but instead she just felt this profound unease, a feeling of being totally out of place. And her work just illustrates the core issue so brilliantly. In her photo series, called Pastoral Interlude, she places Black people right in the middle of these classic, picturesque English countrysides. And the images, they're stunning, but they also give you this jolt, this little shock. Why? Because they expose the hidden rules we've all been taught without even realizing it. That rural spaces are white and urban spaces are where Black people belong. Her work is proof positive that this landscape is anything but neutral. It is actively policed by this incredibly powerful myth. Now, this whole idea of landscape as a cultural script, it doesn't stop at national borders. Not at all. I mean, what if your sense of home is tied to a landscape that's thousands of miles away? For so many migrant communities, the connection to place becomes a landscape of memory. It's something you literally carry inside you. And this creates a really fascinating clash in how we even think about valuing nature. See, traditional Western environmentalism, it's all about what's native, right? The wild, untouched forest that's right here, right now. But for diasporic communities, the value is often somewhere else entirely. It's in remembering, bringing back the memory of a distant home. It's about forging these incredible connections across time and space. We call them translocal connections. So how do you do that? Well, some amazing research with British Asian women shows exactly how. It's through everyday things. Objects like plastic flowers that bring back the feeling of a tropical home, paintings of brilliant sunsets, the incredible smell of spices in the kitchen. Now, a typical environmentalist might just dismiss these things as, tacky or fake, but that completely misses the point. These aren't just objects, they are vital ecological links. They're what we call textures of identification that help sustain who you are in a brand new and often gray environment. Okay, so we've talked about these beautiful, celebrated rural landscapes, but what about the places we often look down on, the ones we stigmatize? Let's pivot now and head into the city. Because here, we find our real battle raging over what a place even means. It's a tale of two completely different views. So let's look at a specific case, Saupstad. It's a big housing estate built back in the 70s in Trondheim, Norway. Now, if you ask outsiders, the media, even some city planners, they'll probably use words like ghetto or problem area. But is that really the whole story? Or could this place actually be heritage? And the difference in perspective is it's stark. An outsider looks and sees concrete blocks. They see headlines about social problems. To them, it's a landscape of failure. But an insider, the person who actually lives there, they see home. They see strong community bonds. They see the green spaces where their kids play. They see a whole lifetime of memories. That's their heritage. This brings us to a really powerful concept: everyday heritage. Think about it. Heritage isn't just about, dusty old castles or grand monuments. No way. It's also about the history and the memories that are baked into our ordinary, modern neighborhoods. It's the value that comes from daily life, from emotional attachment, something that is so often completely invisible to the people making decisions from the outside. All right. For our last example, we're going to look at something truly fascinating and maybe a little troubling. This is where the landscape itself gets turned into a literal test, an exam of national identity that you can either pass or fail. So back to Norway. There's this concept called friluftsliv, which basically means outdoor life, and it is absolutely central to their national identity. So much so that there's an official national policy that uses it as a tool for ingrading refugees. The thinking goes something like this: to become truly Norwegian, you have to learn to love the great outdoors. But, as you can probably guess, it's not nearly that simple. What happens in practice is something researchers call curated sociability. And let me tell you, this is not just a friendly walk in the park. Refugees are taken on mandatory hikes and ski trips where they are taught the correct way to do, well, everything. The right way to walk, the right clothes to wear, even the right food to eat, like hot dogs, not grilled chicken. Success isn't measured by whether you had a good time, it's measured by how well you conform to these super specific cultural rules. And this quote from one of the participants just says it all. "It was only when I came here that I learned about walking." Just let that sink in. Learned about walking. It shows that something we think of as totally universal, just putting one foot in front of the other in nature, is actually a learned cultural script. And if you don't know the lines, you're going to stand out. And that's the crucial point, the great paradox of the whole thing. An activity that is designed to make people feel included can end up doing the exact opposite. It can highlight their differences and make them feel even more like an outsider. When you turn nature into a test of Norwegianness, you're not fostering belonging, you're just creating pressure and anxiety. So, let's bring all these ideas together and see how we can use them to read our own world. Because with these new tools, we can start to decode the hidden stories all around us and finally understand what our landscapes are really telling us. So, what have we really unpacked today? Well, for one, landscapes are never, ever neutral. They are jam-packed with hidden rules. We've seen how big national myths get written right into the scenery, deciding who's an insider and who's an outsider. We've learned that one person's problem area is absolutely another person's cherished home. And finally, we saw how a landscape can literally be used as a test to include or exclude people. And all of this brings us full circle, right back to that question at the beginning. That feeling of not belonging, it is absolutely real. It is not just in your head. It's real. Because our landscapes, from the greenest parks to the grittiest city streets, are actively designed, coded, and policed to make some groups feel perfectly at home, and to make others feel like they don't belong at all. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you walk outside, I want you to stop and really look. Look at the streets, the parks, the buildings around you, and ask yourself, who was this place built for? Who does it welcome with open arms? And maybe the most important question of all, who is being left out?